Well, welcome back to Bitcoin Generations. My name's Bodie, and this is Jor. We're uh, we're working on a show today for you. Going to be talking a little bit about Bitcoin for baby boomers and new Bitcoiners. We enjoy talking about Bitcoin, so pretty much anything, current events, or anything in Bitcoin that you guys are interested in asking questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you. So, how you doing today, Jor?
Couldn't be better.
Good.
I woke up in a good mood, had a bit of a headache, overcame it, back in a good mood.
Back in a good mood. Awesome. Well, I see we're both decking the dark, you know, the dark
Wasn't
attire.
coordinated either. It's good. We're on the same wavelength, I guess, Bodie, you might say.
Kind of just creeping into Friday, So yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great afternoon. We had some tornadoes here last night, so everybody's sort of like, kind of like whoa, around where I live. So been
Is that pretty
interesting.
common?
This time of year it can be. It doesn't surprise me because I'm from sort of the South, Oklahoma, Texas, where you get a lot of tornadoes. Um, I don't really worry about it until you start hearing the noise like it's a freight train, here it comes. Um, but they don't always sound like that. So, but yeah, it's something to think about. But at 2 in the morning, and when all your wife and kids are awake and they're trying to figure out like what's going on, what should we do? Yeah, somebody's got to wake up and make a plan.
No doubt. Well, sounds like you're an expert at it, so they're in good hands.
Ooh, oh, yeah. It's one thing. It's one thing to respond to emergencies. It's another thing to kind of handle it in your own home. So,
Yeah. Well, probably the same size of crew though in your household as the an emergency crew. You got a lot of people in that household.
sometimes I think we have too many. Yeah, but we're working on that too.
Well, you could sell a few for Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, there's always that. I'm definitely always trying to teach them about Bitcoin.
Yeah, that'd be better. You don't want to sell them. You want to get them earning Bitcoin. That's what you want. Put them to good use.
Yeah, it's like now I heard something recently on that note about kids and Bitcoin, and this is Bitcoin generation, so we're definitely into trying to preserve wealth, and the best way to do that is with the hardest asset that's ever been invented, and that is Bitcoin. But there's a job in trying to educate your family if they're not on the same page as you, right?
Yes,
So one
big
of the
time.
things I learned from Ben, uh, I forget his last name, but his name is Ben. He has a show. He said on a stage recently, he said when he pays his kids uh, their allowance, and they're doing chores or whatnot, he pays them allowance. He gives them half of it in cash, and he gives them the other half of it in Bitcoin. He sends them some Sats. He's got them set up with a wallet, and he does that. So he's teaching them about because you can, if you do that, you can see like, well, this money's worth this now, and that money's worth that now. You've got a little bit of. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great idea because I think if you gave them 100% Bitcoin, I don't know. As a kid, thinking back, you get money, you want to spend it. That's just part of being a kid. Whether that's on a new bike, N64, and when I was a kid, Nintendo 64, or whatever. So it's good to have the Bitcoin would kind of be like a built-in savings account where you don't have to set up like a different bank account. You don't have to see it melt away to nothing. You can actually preserve some of that wealth. Imagine having a bunch of Sats as a kid today, and you actually held on to those. That's going to be a big thing, I think. Actually, and, when you think about it, you're going to be able to tell, I think, which kids had parents who were Bitcoiners back in the 2020s versus the kids that didn't have Bitcoiners for parents. I really believe that because this train moves fast, and even when we're thinking 4 or 5 years down the road, never mind 15 years down the road or 20 years. So I think that's a great idea. Teach them about money, give them a bit of a cushion for the future, and let them have a little bit of spending cash in the meantime.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to be surprised, Jort. It's going to be 2030, and you're going to think you're going to just blink your eyes, and it's going to be 2030. And for everybody in here, it's like, hey, pinch yourself, because this is where we are right now. We just need to keep stacking sats, humbly learning, doing all the stuff that we're doing to try to educate ourselves. But it's yet another layer to educate our family. One thing I was going to mention, I went to my first Bitcoin meetup this week,
Nice.
and
How'd that go?
I will say this on the air publicly, is that most of what I learned from Bitcoin, I learned from you, and I'm thankful that I was like in a place where I could understand, like, okay, like, let's start at the basics and let's keep going. I had a really good conversation with some of these guys. There was like 4 guys there, and it was a small meeting apparently, from what they said. But yeah, I mean, we discussed some basic stuff. There was a guy that had a question that he wanted my answer for, and so I gave him an answer, and he seemed just kind of nodding like, oh, okay.
What was the
And
question?
then we
remember?
discussed Superback.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I brought that up.
Nice.
And like, like, it's very good to know about. Very good to know about. So
That's the one thing that Superback lacks, is awareness of it. It's got everything, but there's just not a whole lot of people who know about it. So
Yeah.
that's good. Anytime you can, I think that just within Bitcoin overall, and I kind of mentioned this on my show a little bit today, is that there's just too much focus around price and the things that don't really matter at this stage in Bitcoin. And there's not enough attention paid to the things that do matter, which is protecting this asset, whatever amount of sats that you can obtain at this stage of the game. Protect that with the best possible way. So that's it's one of those things within Bitcoin. You have to look at it like traditional. You can kind of compare it to traditional sense in a way, but in terms of bank level security, I think we've talked about this before a little bit, Bodhi. I think that you like that analogy, bank level security, because when you think about how much security and how much effort and investment banks make into protecting what they have in terms of their deposits and their reserves, when you think about it, you compare a bank to a Bitcoiner and you say, okay, well, the banks, they sink a lot of money, a lot of, a decent percentage of their reserves goes into securing that. And their money is fake, for one. Their money has insurance on it. If the bank got robbed, they would get the money back in insurance proceeds. And they're looking after somebody else's money. So that's what the bank invests a lot in security. And they, flip that on its head and say, Bitcoin, well, you don't have insurance. It's yours. And it is the best asset that has ever existed in human history before. So when you compare the two, not only should you have bank level security for it in terms of like the allocation you make in your security, but it should be higher than that, because it is a far superior asset and there's much more to lose there. So it's a kind of a cute catchphrase that says, be your own bank, but you have to take that seriously.
BYOB, be your own bank. Yeah. It's another level of responsibility for people, right? When you go, okay, you don't like the banking system. Great. You don't have to wait for your check to be deposited. You don't like all that stuff. Okay. Now, you asked for it. These devs built it. Here it is. Are you ready for it? And a lot of people are like, no, I'd rather just kind of like let somebody else take care of that.
Yeah.
And, no, no, we don't want that. It is important for us to get smart and to have and to kind of take on a level of bank level security. And then, and as I was describing this Superback, as I understand it, okay, I'm not an expert, but as I understand it, it's you practice with it with other things first, with things that are not your seed phrase, other practice kind of scenarios, and you do those things, and then so I don't want to talk about stuff that I don't understand as well as I'd like to, but I do think it was really great to understand. What I do understand about it is that you get a chance to practice with it, and then, no one else ever sees your seed phrase. No one else ever is involved in there's no trusted third party, or there's no other party.
Yep.
That's part of the training. That's part of the value that you will get from that. Do I have that understanding correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say the biggest drawback to something like super backed is the time and effort that you have to put into it. So that's, as you're going through your Bitcoin journey yourself, I think that when you start, it's okay to let somebody else handle a little of that risk. If you want to take the convenient route, and maybe that's buying it on Coinbase in the US or River. Let's use River as an example here, because they allow you to hold your Bitcoin on River, and Coinbase sucks. So you can buy some Bitcoin, you can leave it with River. I would say that the odds of River losing your Bitcoin would be very close to zero. It's not zero, which is why you like to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, because there's always a chance that something could happen. But if you're just getting into Bitcoin, I have no issues with just leaving it on an exchange like River. Because then you have no risk. The risk is on them, right? You get the price exposure to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes from 82 to 820,000, your net worth goes up, and you don't have to take on any sort of risk for that. It's free, right?
Right.
Obviously, as you progress, you start taking self-custody of it. You put it into a wallet, you get a hardware device, then you get 3 hardware devices and put it into a multi-sig, which adds another layer of security. And then you go to super backed and encrypt your recovery phrase. So it's not something that, Bitcoin, you can't shortcut, whether you're talking security, whether you're talking about getting to like one whole Bitcoin. You cannot shortcut Bitcoin. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time to gain that conviction, gain that knowledge. And over time, gradually and slowly, you get to a point where you're sleeping good at night, where nobody can mess with your wealth.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's very interesting to me. Sometimes I'm a little bit of like, oh, look at that. That is so interesting. I need to learn about that. But really, it's great to stay grounded and to remember that the basics are where this needs to be. The basics are where we have to help. We have to help people in our family. We have to help people that we know with the basics on. Yeah, the first phase is learning how to buy it, and
Yep.
and or like DCA, dollar cost average it in, just like we learned with other investments. You can do that same thing with Bitcoin. So you dollar cost average in, and like you're saying, your account, it's slowly building up, and then the next phase of learning then is like, okay, well, what do I do then? How do I best steward this investment that I have? And that's the next phase of learning, right? And then you eventually move to your own self-custody. That's the goal, is not to have it in something that you can't control. You don't want to have it in something eventually that someone's not going to freeze your account, um,
It's
so
a
yeah,
magical thing. It's a magical thing. And I think that's, I'm seeing quite a few people in the chat here. So it seems to
yeah,
me like there's some Bitcoiners in here. And the one thing I would say for, we kind of covered the bases in terms of like somebody who's just getting into Bitcoin. And the one thing I'd add to that is, as much as I hate the Bitcoin ETFs, it is a very convenient way to get some price exposure to Bitcoin. So you're going to have trade-offs along the way. The one thing that you should be certainly doing, though, is getting some sort of exposure to Bitcoin right now. It has been the best performing asset for the last 10 years by a very large margin. So if nothing else, you should just get some price exposure to Bitcoin. And that could look like, holding it in an ETF, holding it with River, holding it with a custodian. Obviously, again, as you progress, you want to take that off of there. But yeah, it's and the one thing I was going to say is, I would challenge anybody out there who is kind of past that point of like, okay, I want to take self-custody of this. The next thing I would challenge people with there is actually sending a Bitcoin transaction, like setting up a Sparrow wallet, figuring out where you're sending the Bitcoin, even if it's to yourself, setting your transaction fee, signing the transaction, broadcasting the transaction, following that transaction in the mempool, waiting for it to confirm. Once you go through that process, you see the real power of what Bitcoin is. When you send Bitcoin on layer one, it will change your life, because you just sent money to somebody, even if it's yourself. You sent somebody else, sent Bitcoin to somebody else without anybody's permission, without needing the bank's permission, without needing your government's permission, anything like that. And that is truly, it's a very big thing. And I think a lot of people don't really comprehend how big of a thing that is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. I love the idea of, putting your, I remember my first transaction, and I didn't follow it all the way through the mempool, but I was sitting there watching it, and it takes a journey, right? It goes on this journey. It does this. It goes through all of everything that it does. And then on the backside, you're like, okay, this is what's supposed to happen. Just wait for this to happen. And then you're sitting there and you're waiting. And then, oh, there it is. Okay, this really works. And it does make a difference to just see a transaction happen that way. And that is something I will say that we also kind of new Bitcoiners would probably be well to have some help with that when they first, like we've said before on this show, like when you're first learning how to drive, like you've got an instructor over here on the right side here. He's got a little brake, down on the floorboard there. And just in case something goes,
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's so true. But at the same time, the one thing I would say about that, Bodhi, is yes, when you're doing anything serious and substantial with your Bitcoin, if you're not comfortable with it, then yes, hire somebody to do it. There's a lot of really good people within Bitcoin who would be happy to help you with that. Yeah. But the other thing I would say is when you are trying things like this, like it's really low risk. Like you could go to sparrowwallet.com, you could download the wallet, you could send some Bitcoin into the wallet. You don't have to have a device. You can create a wallet within Sparrow, and you can send some Bitcoin into there, even if it's like 5,000 sats, like $5 worth of Bitcoin. It doesn't matter, especially when the fees are this low like they are right now. But that experience that you gain from doing that is invaluable. And then you try it with maybe 50,000, and then you get to maybe 500,000. And then everything within Bitcoin is meant to be taken slowly. So you can do these things with a very low risk. You just have to have a little bit of time and some determination, I guess you might say, to do it. So yeah. I wanted to mention too, sorry about to cut you off there, but we are also live on the Zap stream. I see there's a couple people over there. So thank you for joining us on the Zap stream. And for those people watching on YouTube, if you want to check out the Zap stream, you can just easily go into your browser and type in sats.gg, sats.gg, and you'll be able to watch the show not on YouTube. A little bit more decentralized and freedom-loving way to do it. So
yeah, we've got quite a few people in the chat here. We've got Letha. Hello, Letha. Sweating and smiling together. I got Hustle Hard. $52,000. Oh yeah. And Jonathan, he's got some advice for some people. Never sell your Bitcoin. Yes. AC and Timber Crasher and
I think he's answering or Jay's answering Hustle Hard's question of how many sats do I need to retire?
Yeah.
It looks like there's a calculator on the Bitcoin Academy. So it's all, my answer to that would be, it all depends on your timeline. All right. Yep. Like if you want to retire in 5 years, you're probably going to need quite a bit of Bitcoin. But if you're not going to retire for the next 20 years, you're not going to need that much. You should be more focused on just getting as much as you can and learning how to protect that Bitcoin. Make sure you actually have it in 20 years from now. That'll be the hard part. Well, and just quick, I'll just throw this in here. One thing I learned from you, and that I already plan on working, because I'm just that kind of person. I like working. I like having something going.
is that I don't really plan on retiring, like not going to do anything. But on that note, I think you said, if you can train and you can learn how to like earn Bitcoin doing something, as a side hustle or something you're already doing anyway, and you're earning Bitcoin, then that helps make your transition into, a Bitcoin standard or being fully retired or however you want it to look. That's helpful.
Bodie, let's sorry, I want to call maybe an audible here today. If that's
Let's
okay.
do that.
So I see a couple good questions in the chat here. So let's maybe do like kind of a Q&A day today.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody watching this who has any specific questions, maybe we can just do like a Q&A. And on that note, in terms of retirement and, thinking about earning sats, I'll maybe introduce a concept here that I've been thinking through in my head, and maybe we'll just do it live on the show today. I was going to do like a clip from my own channel, but I think it'd be useful maybe just to do kind of on the fly here today. It'd be fun because I think it's going to be pretty eye-opening. I haven't done it myself yet, but I'll be interested to share it with everybody watching today.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. You got something you want to share then?
Yeah, find it. Maybe I'll kind of be doing this in the background just so we don't have to wait for me to type it all in and stuff. But maybe just let's start with a couple questions in the chat, and then I'll bring this up here.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, let me just mention this real quick. Buck52,000 says, I bet a lot of new Bitcoiners are freaking out right now due to the price movement. The chop, where we've been sitting up and down and going sideways for how long now? I mean, a lot of jokes about that. A lot of, fear, uncertainty, doubt, a lot of theories about why that is. And, it could be sort of intimidating or off-putting to people who are pre-coiners or new Bitcoiners, people who are like looking at, Bitcoin more seriously now. Like, why would I do that? This whole thing is going sideways. Well, when you do your homework and you understand why it's going sideways, or you have at least kind of, you can eliminate some reasons why you think it might be or might not be doing that through kind of deductive reasoning. That's helpful too, because in your learning, you learn some things about like what people are doing, or what the rumors are that people are doing. Are they true? Maybe not. But Bitcoin, it's all good for Bitcoin. The price is still affordable. It's not crazy expensive, right? So we can get a lot more sats now than we could if it was really high and expensive.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the best way to think about it. Is Bitcoin truly is a win-win, because when Bitcoin price is going up and you hold Bitcoin, your net worth goes up and the purchasing power of your wealth goes up. But when Bitcoin goes down, whatever kind of value you add to the world, if you exchange that into Bitcoin, you're getting more Bitcoin, which is what you want. If you're still in the accumulation phase of Bitcoin like we are, then whatever work you're doing for the world, you're getting more in return for that when the price of Bitcoin is low, because then you can trade less fake money for more real money. So it's really impossible to lose in Bitcoin, which is a crazy kind of concept, but it's the absolute truth.
Well, I just want to shout out, it's Flow. It's hard to pronounce this name. It might be
Forte.
Yeah, Flow Forte. Do you know who that is?
Yep, Frank.
Well, they just they zapped 1,000 sats. So thank you very much,
Frank.
Frank, way to go. Also received another zap for 50 sats. So, and I don't know who that is. I'm sorry, I can't see who that is. Thank you very much.
I think Frank actually sent his first zap.
Is that his first zap?
Today on the earlier show on the Bitcoin journey. So he's zapping.
Wow. Good job, Frank. Way to go.
No doubt. That's awesome.
Very nice.
It's always nice. It's one of my favorite things in Bitcoin is when somebody either joins Nostr or sends their first zap, something like that, because again, it's one of those things where once you do it and once you experience it, you never see things the same after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and it's great also hearing about it because, it's like for us to mention them, that it's kind of like creates the full circle. Then they know it got here and
Right.
we see it
Exactly.
and we're expressing thanks for it. So that's great. Yeah. That closed that loop. It's good. It's a circular economy, right?
That's right. You got to
Value for
be,
value.
yeah, I went on a little bit of a rant today on the show about that on the Bitcoin journey, but it's true. Yeah, good money needs velocity, so we got to be using it.
Just for a second, I'll mention. Speaking of circular economy, I found a guy on Noster who is in Ohio, and he has maple syrup,
Oh, nice. I
and
saw that today on Nostr, I think.
yeah, he's on Noster. He's Maple Trade, all one word, just like it sounds, and he's got maple syrup. Now that we've been shouting this out, I don't know how long he's going to have it, but he had some. So, and I've got my order in already. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
We
yeah,
got to get
maple
him as
syrup.
a sponsor on Maple Bitcoin channel, I think. We'll get in touch with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Is there
I
anything
mean,
better than fresh maple syrup? I don't think that there is.
I don't, especially when it comes, it's handcrafted. You're right. It's people that you've done business with, that who they are. It's just it's something that's something great about it. He also, I think his sister makes soap too. Um, but oh dear,
Oh,
we
yeah.
got
Is
another
that
zap
his
here.
sister? Really? That's cool.
I think we've got another zap here, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see how these are coming through though.
Probably from the QR code on the screen.
These are coming. Yes, okay, they are. They are coming through the QR code, and it's going to my Strike wallet, because that's how I did that. Let's see. Okay, so today, yeah, we've got a 50 sats. We got 1,000 sats. Um, I got another 1,000 sats. It says pay Bodie. I think that was maybe Frank. It's got the same person. No, Flo Forte. It's a different person. Um, so thank you for that. And then we've got one from Yogi, live from the show, 2,000 sats. He says, I bought some syrup from the guy too. I live in Ohio too. How
What?
about that? Nice, Yogi. Way to go. And thank you for the sats.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. There you go. Very good.
From Yogi?
Yeah, Yogi.
What a name.
Yeah, like Yogi Bear, but I'm sure it's not Yogi Bear. But obviously we have a connection with Maple Trade. So maybe we'll have a circular economy here in Ohio. I'll work on that.
Let's get Maple Trade on the show on Bitcoin Generations.
Well, I love that idea. Maybe he will. We'll work on that. You know how sometimes it is where people really value their privacy and they're kind of like they want to
Yeah.
do business, but they don't want to have anything to do with it. Anything that would compromise any privacy, I should say. Yeah. But yeah, so people can look for Maple Trade on Noster. I don't know if he's anywhere else, but he is on Noster, and I think he also supplies some maple syrup for Odell. I've seen Odell shout him out before. Let's see, what else do we have? Are you ready to go with that thing yet, or what do you think?
No, let's do one more question. There's a couple good ones in there. This is gonna be ready in about, I don't know, 2 minutes. This,
Okay.
like when somebody asks me how long supper gonna be, I usually say 2 minutes, but it usually takes 10 minutes. So we'll go with 2 minutes.
Okay.
Or when are you gonna be here? 2 minutes, then
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Are we there yet? Can you recommend any insightful books for learning more about Bitcoin? So I have a couple of books. Maybe Jor has some too, but there's a couple that I would mention. One of them is I'm finishing it right now. It's Thank God for Bitcoin. I'd mention that one. That was written by like 8 different people. But Jimmy Song is the one that that I was listening to him, and he recommended that. And then the other one is the one that I'm reading now is The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard.
I've heard
That
that's
I'm
really
finding
good.
very interesting. It's got a lot of good history in it, relevant history, and he calls out some people that have done some bad things, and
Nice.
I like that. Um, and and bad things, not just through history, but like these people are still alive that have done some bad things in
Love that.
financial world, right? So those would be my two right off the top of my head.
I think I've read a couple good books. I'm somebody who thinks that the Bitcoin Standard is a little bit overrated. Um, Even maybe it's because I was kind of already in Bitcoin when I read it. But oh, there you go, Blockchain
Blockchain
Yogi.
Yogi.
I should have known that. He's been in a couple chats lately. He sent us a couple zaps, and I said, "What should I call you?" I think he said Yogi. So sorry about that, but he I think he's starting to post more on his YouTube channel now. I've noticed some posts of on Nostr of him. So shout out to Yogi. That's a great name too. I will not forget that one again. That's for sure.
Sorry to interrupt you with that when I post those up there.
No,
I
that's
hope
okay.
yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Yogi. If you would have said Blockchain Yogi, I would have known who you were talking to or about.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's good. So which ones? Yeah, I think one of my favorite books that I've read within Bitcoin is called 21 Lessons. 21 Lessons from Gigi. It's more of like you have to kind of have a decent understanding of Bitcoin to read it. Not that you have to be an expert by any means, but he's more of like a philosopher, which I like philosophy myself. And so it's a really good approach to thinking about Bitcoin. So it's called 21 Lessons by Gigi. Gigi's probably the most underrated Bitcoiner on the planet, I think. He's somebody who I started listening to when I first got into Bitcoin in 2020. And then he just kind of disappeared. He started working for OpenSats, like Odell's, um, what would you call it? I don't know, nonprofit. And so he's kind of disappeared in terms of like doing podcasts and stuff, but he has a YouTube channel. He's got a couple posts on there. He's really active on Nostr though. So Gigi, I think, is somebody who most Bitcoiners today probably haven't heard of, but he's really good thought leader in the space. And
Yeah.
The other one I would mention is Sovereign Individual. It's not
Mm.
about Bitcoin. It was written well before Bitcoin. It was written in the 90s. But the cool thing about that book, it's really dense. Like I'm only about a quarter of the way through it, if that. But very good history in there. And they use history to predict the future in terms of a very decentralized and sovereign world that they predicted, which is exactly what we're going through right now. So they basically predicted Bitcoin before Bitcoin was a thing. I mean, even in the 90s, they were kind of tossing different ideas with Bitcoin around, but a very interesting read. I've just fascinated every time I dive into that one. So Sovereign Individual, those would be my two recommendations.
Okay. Okay.
But I do like the Big Print. I want to get that one because if we can find like a book that's very useful for newer Bitcoiners to understand the real value, because in order to understand Bitcoin, you have to understand the problem and
Yeah.
history, fiat. If you don't know that there's a problem, then you don't really understand the value of Bitcoin, the solution. So that's why people like the Bitcoin Standard, is because it presents the problem and offers a solution, which is Bitcoin. But I didn't get a whole lot of the Bitcoin Standard. I think it's kind of overrated. So that's just my thoughts.
I fully agree. I didn't get as much out of it as I'm getting out of Lawrence Lepard's book, The Big
Oh,
Print.
that's good. Good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know.
I 100% I can say that.
There was a
we're
question
looking
here,
at
Bodie.
20 minutes till. So
Oh, yes. Okay. Shit. Okay. Well, let's bring this one up. I'll talk about this. It was from 112 from Tajavi. It says, "Hello, I've been thinking about doing side hustles to earn more Bitcoin."
okay, let's see. Where is that one? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of.
Hey, look who's in the chat. Forrest. Forrest is in the house. He said
Forrest.
the
Hello,
Big Print's
Forrest.
actually free with Kindle Unlimited in Canada. Interesting. Okay. So anyways, back to this question here. So this is actually a concept. I'm glad Forrest is in the chat here because this
Yeah.
is a concept that we discussed on Maple Bitcoin. So can I share my screen here?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I should be able to do it. You'll just have to probably approve of it.
Okay.
So
I'm going to take the.
see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So I want to introduce this concept here of increasing your wage over time. So again, we kind of chatted about this on the Maple Bitcoin show. We didn't really do too much in terms of like hard numbers though. So I want to actually present this in a way that people would understand here. So the question was about starting a side hustle and earning Bitcoin. So I'm going to use an example here of somebody like me who does like a daily show on YouTube and Zapstream. And so this is kind of what I put together here quickly mid show. So forgive me if there's something wrong here, but so let's just say for an example, during 2024, doing a live stream every day, let's say that from all the zaps that we received or that I received, it totaled about 2 million sats. So the average price of Bitcoin in 2024 was 65,000 US dollars, which means that my salary for the year would be in fiat terms $1,300 and per hour $4.40. So it doesn't seem like that great of an investment of time, right? But here's the kicker. So if you assume a 50% return year compound annual growth rate on Bitcoin, which historically is what happened, and I expect it to be that, if not more. So you can see that by 2031 here, the price of Bitcoin, presumably based on this, will be about $1.1 million. So the key to this, and the kind of the key concept with this, is that when you earn in Bitcoin, you can actually dictate your own salary. In other words, you get to decide what your salary is based on when you spend your Bitcoin. So in 2024, if I made this money, made these apps in Bitcoin, and I didn't spend it, then I can basically set my own salary in the future when I go to spend that Bitcoin. So keep in mind here, this is the purchasing power that these 2 million sats will get me, assuming this increase. So we got 2024 earnings again, the 2 million sats that I earned in 2024 from doing a stream. The 2031 expected price of Bitcoin is going to be 1.1 million. And so my salary now, because I didn't spend the Bitcoin, my salary will be 22,000 US dollars or $75 an hour. So that's a pretty big jump from $4 per hour for doing something like a stream to $75. And that's assuming that I earned these sats in 2024. I held on to them. Maybe I put them in like a longer term wallet and I didn't spend them until 2031, which isn't that far away. That's what, 7 years from now? So with that in mind, you can start different side hustles today. You can start a stream, even if it seems like an insignificant amount. You can see here that my per hour was $4. That's my return on my investment of time if I spent those sats. But if I held on to them for 7 years, my salary actually becomes $75 per hour just by holding on to it. So
that's side hustle.
Side hustle. Yeah. And that's kind of the key here is that you could start a side hustle, something like this. Or if you're just going to work and working a 9-to-5 job, you could do the same and just take a portion of your salary and put it into Bitcoin, which will essentially increase your fiat salary over time. As long as you hold on to those sats for 7 years in this case, you will over time increase your salary just by holding Bitcoin, which is a wild concept.
Yeah, that is a wild concept. So basically, if you decide what you can DCA, would that be a good way to look at it? Decide what you can DC, dollar cost average.
Yeah, I mean, from that perspective, if you said, well, okay, well, I don't really have time to do like a Bitcoin side hustle right now, that's fine. Most people don't have a lot of time. I get it. But if let's say you go to work and you make $300 per day, and your monthly expenses net out to be, you have to spend $250 per day, right? So your take home there's $50 per day. So if you bought Bitcoin with that, that'd be the same kind of thing. And if you held on to it, you would basically increase your salary over time just by holding on to Bitcoin instead of spending it on stupid things.
Excellent.
And then, I mean, you stretch it out to 10 years, you hang on to that to 10 years, that's going to go to $100 per hour, and then $150 an hour. So that's kind of the concept there, is that you can kind of decide your own rate, what you're worth, based on how long you hold Bitcoin that you earn. Even if you're earning fiat, flip it into Bitcoin and hold on to it that way.
Which, if I can go this direction with it, brings us back around to like going through your garage, finding
Exactly.
stuff that you can sell. Is that your side hustle? You're like, maybe you're finding, an old piece of furniture and you do something to it and now you sell it for something. You got stuff laying around the house. That's why I think a lot of Bitcoiners that I've heard of are like, no, selling everything, selling everything. I need a mattress on a floor. That's all I'm living on. You ever seen those pictures of those guys that have like zero, like they're living like paupers, I think it's great.
Yeah, 100%. So let's dive into that, Bodie, because let's take this, one step further here. So instead of the salary here, then let's say that you sold a bike in your garage. Let's do that.
Okay.
So
I can list them off for you.
You got what?
I got a whole list.
No. Yeah, let's say you have an old bike in your garage that you've been wanting to ride for 5 years, but you haven't pulled it out and dusted it off. So you could sell that bike. So it says you have to bring it up on the screen here, Bodie.
Okay.
I just kind of changed the no, it's okay. Yeah, so I just changed the spreadsheet on the fly here. So this is the wording might be off a little bit here, but let's say that let's call this bike sale in 2024, or say 2025. We'll make it more realistic. So the price now is 81,000. So anyways, this is what you'll get. So if you sold a bike for 500,000 sats in 2025, you'll get what is that worth? $405. But you keep that same bike sale from 2025 and you hold on to those sats for 7 years. That bike just went from $400 worth of purchasing power to $5,600 worth of purchasing power. Yes.
There you go.
So it's the exact same kind of concept.
You've got all kinds of, let's see, you got an old truck or an old car in the backyard, or something that just needs a little bit of work. You got to redo something and it'll be ready to go. Everybody's had stuff like that. If you've done anything, if you've, had anything in your life, it's like anything break on you before, sometimes these things sort of hang around, and it's sort of like spring cleaning. It's a good time to get your spring cleaning going,
100%.
But you can sell it for Bitcoin.
100%.
Or turn it into Bitcoin. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a great way to see that. And we got about 6 or 7 minutes left before we kind of probably ought to wind it down. Any more questions do you see in here? I mean, there's some great people in here today.
Yeah, there is.
We really appreciate the zaps.
I see a couple comments here. I see everything divided by 21 million, which is Frank, who sent in the 1,000 sat zap. Said super backed is the best. So he's a user. He's got some experience with super backed. I'm telling you, once you get your head around what that thing is, it's going to be a big deal in the Bitcoin space. I see Paul's in here. Good to see you, Paul. Lots of great faces in here today.
Yeah.
Russell says The Big Print is a good book to introduce baby boomers to Bitcoin. See, that's a problem, is that I don't know what your opinion on this is, Bodie, But from my experience, you can't send somebody a video to watch. You can't send somebody a book for them to read. I feel like people kind of have to they get into Bitcoin when they're ready for it. So again, they kind of need to feel the pain themselves. They could be aware that there's a problem in the world with the fiat money now. I think even if we look back 4 years ago, the amount of people who understand that there's a problem with our monetary system today versus what it was 4 years ago is exponentially higher. And that's only going to continue. But people have to arrive at that conclusion themselves, and they actually have to seek out that knowledge themselves. We can't really force them to watch a video or force them to read a book. They kind of have to feel that there's a problem here, and they have to find Bitcoin kind of organically. That's what I've noticed in my experience anyway. So
Yeah, I think that's a great take on it. I think approaching just generally speaking about it and having it be just a part of my conversations with people is kind of where I'm going with it. Is definitely, I ask pretty much every place that I go. I've asked coffee shops and stuff. Hey, do you guys take Bitcoin? It's like it's just a real question because it's a real money. I mean, you can use it. And we should use it, right? Every chance I get, I mean, it's fun putting some money into Lightning because every chance I get, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I want to buy a sweatshirt, I want to buy something like this, or if I need something, can I use Lightning? So uh, it's always a question on my mind. But then again, I'm one of those people who talk about Bitcoin. Not
no, that's
everybody
good.
does.
And that's what I was going to add to that is like, it probably doesn't seem like much. And I honestly have to do a better job of this myself. I just never think to do it. But yeah, every place you're actually paying, you should ask them if they accept Bitcoin. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. And I think the other thing is that over time, the mixture of people asking to be if they could pay in Bitcoin, plus Bitcoin actually catching some traction in the world over time, every business in the world will accept Bitcoin. They'll want Bitcoin. They might offer a discount for Bitcoin, but we still can push it there a little bit faster. And so if there's a business, if they have 5 people in that month asking if they accept Bitcoin, what do you think is going to happen? Their staff might say, they might go to the owner and say, we have people asking to pay in Bitcoin. Maybe this is something that we should look into. Right.
Yeah.
So even if they say no, even if you feel like a fool, you're making a difference.
Yeah.
Even if you don't, fully understand that, you're making a difference. And the other thing I'd say on that too, is that when we're thinking about Lightning, we're thinking about cold storage. I think it was me and you talking about this yesterday, Bodhi. But I said, like, one of the most underrated aspects of having Bitcoin in cold storage is that it's hard to get out of there, right? So it's kind of like an added layer of savings, because when you have Bitcoin on your Lightning wallet, for myself anyways, I have no issues like zapping people, buying things online with it any chance I get. But when it's in my cold storage, it takes a lot more work to pry it out of there. So for the most part, it usually just sits in there. So it's like a built-in kind of like savings layer just by making it more difficult for you to access it.
100%. 100%. And it needs to be, right? Because why shouldn't it be? It's the best investment we can have. I mean, I just sometimes I think, the person who's listening to this is like, man, these guys are really drinking the Kool-Aid. It's like, yeah, well, do the work, do the homework. Yeah, we definitely, I think I can speak for you. I mean, it's definitely the best asset that's out there. I mean, we can, so definitely you want to make it hard to spend. You don't want to have it easy access, especially if you're trying to preserve your wealth for future generations. You don't want to have it easy access.
Yeah. So keep 98% on cold storage, keep 2% in a Lightning wallet. And look at can you bring up Forrest's Bitcoin not crypto comment there about the bike you sell? There you go. Forrest said the bike you sell, you could list a Bitcoin price. He said, I've sold multiple things through Marketplace for Bitcoin and have orange pilled people through it. So he's selling something, and maybe he's like, when somebody's reading that ad, they see $500, or if you're willing to take like a 10% less price if paid in Bitcoin, that's going to get people at least curious about it, if nothing else. And as he said, he orange pilled some people for it. So not only are you growing the network, inherently growing your net worth, but you're also getting Bitcoin instead of the illusionary monopoly money there.
Yeah.
Great
No,
point.
it's great. It's great to be able to, like, you know, have those conversations, because they're just like one-on-one, peer-to-peer conversations, right?
Right.
It's not like, they're watching a YouTube channel or something to try to, like,
Right.
understand it. It's just organic.
Yeah. And what do you have to lose? Somebody pays in fiat. So what?
And that's what the beauty of this was, that's what this was created for.
Right.
It was
Peer-to-peer
created for the
electronic cash.
peer-to-peer. It's created for the people, right? That's who we are. Peer-to-peer. Well, it could be, machine to machine if you're talking AI or robots or something, I guess. But yeah, I love it. Yeah, so we're coming right up on 3 o'clock. I know you're we could keep going, and I know you've got a hard stop, but um
Yeah, it's
uh
up to you. If you want to keep going, you can. Looks like there's quite a few people in the chat here. So if you want to keep going yourself, you can. If not,
yeah, I might stick it out a little longer. I've got a little more endurance here. So I'm gonna have to yeah, I'll let you drop off whenever you need to.
that
But
sounds great.
thanks for spending time with us today.
Okay, I loved another great conversation here today. This was so. Hopefully, we can do more of that. I like the Q&A aspect of it. That's what half my show is every day. So,
I
thanks
love it.
everybody for showing up today, for asking some great questions, and thanks for having me on again, Bodie.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay, see you guys.
All right. Take care. All right, y'all. Yeah, we're just gonna keep going down some of the comments here. Love this. Uh, yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about this for a second. Forrest put this up here, and thanks for these comments, Forrest. I really appreciate you being here too. Um, Convert the gold bug boomers and the crypto degen zoomers into Bitcoiners. That's good. That's good. You know, it's so interesting. Some of the people that I know are not really, they're gold bugs as much. I mean, they are, but because gold has been around for a long time. They've been into gold for a long time, but they're really into real estate. The people that I know, that's their thing. Like, oh yeah, I want to get the money coming in on a monthly basis in case anything happens to me, my wife can get that, and think, I just like, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, like, traditionally, in a different kind of context of history, like historically. I mean, I remember back in 2006, you know, 2006, my house that I had bought in like 2003 went like crazy. It just went, I mean, it almost, I don't know, probably it went up 60% on paper. And that was interesting for me because I got to see right after that everything just start to crumble and crush just down into, like, it was worth less than we owed on it after the little thing that happened in 2008. It started it earlier than that because I was in Las Vegas, and yeah, that was, yeah, some things you can't ever forget. That was one of those things. It was pretty rough. I think I've mentioned that story here on this channel before, but yeah, once you live through something like that, then you're like, okay, that can happen. Actually, real estate can just crater like that. Um, and so I saw it from a consumer, a homeowner's perspective, but um, yeah, I don't think that real estate is the place to be right now. In fact, if I didn't have such a crew that I have, I probably wouldn't be living in this place. Um, so we'll move on a little bit here. Keep going down through the comments. And buck 52,000, threw the rest of my old ship coins on the exchange and smashed my old ledger with a hammer. All right. Was it a sledgehammer or just a regular framing hammer? Because that almost deserves a sledgehammer, I would think. Yeah. Peer-to-peer Bitcoin as well. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So Clean Your Machine. Welcome, Clean Your Machine. I hope your grandson's doing well. I think that's your grandson there you're mentioning in the comment here. Bodhi's challenge for Aiden is good to go as he has his own phone and a speed address. Way to go, Aiden. I'm proud of you. That's great. It's just you're taking some lessons from your grandpa, I guess. And my encouragement to you is just keep stacking. And when you get all jiggy and you get all like full of yourself, it's time to find something to humble yourself then, right? That's because the humility will come. Sometimes it comes willingly and sometimes it doesn't come willingly, but the humility will come. Depends on where you're at and what kind of situations you're putting yourself in. So always try to put yourself in a good situation where you have a recipe for success and doing well. And listening to your grandpa clean your machine, I believe that's who that is. Listening to your grandpa is a great thing to be doing. That is awesome. Sweating and smiling together. Hey, there's some living in the future people there. He goes, when my customers ask what do I want to get paid in, I always say Bitcoin. I still haven't got paid yet, but one day I will. Very good. Very good. Yeah. You can ask for, if you just ask for that, put it out there. Hey, there's going to be somebody that's going to show up someday and go, yeah, that would be no problem. Letha's ready to zap. She's zapping. She's zappity zap. Isn't that Lisa? She's amazing. Aiden's in the chat today. Great stream. Oh, Aiden, that's awesome. I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad you're stacking. All right. Sin Diesel. Very good. Hey, we're happy to be here for you, Sin Diesel. All right. Great job. Let's see. Oh, it was Aiden that sent me 100 sats. Very good. Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate that. Let's see. We've got everything divided by 21 million. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And your picture says, I'm not retired. I'm a professional papa. All right, there you go. I'm not retired either. Let's keep going. And you got some gray hair too. I love that. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Oh my goodness. Wow, we've got a lot of comments in here today. We've got Russell Hawkins. He says, I agree that people have come to Bitcoin when they are ready. They absolutely do. They come or they don't come. But like somebody said, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. Well, everybody gets Bitcoin when it's their time to figure it out. So Russell has a father who's curious about Bitcoin, so he gave him the big print. Nice. Great work. I think that is Lawrence has done a great job on that. He's been doing the circuit, talking about his book and stuff, but it lives up to it. I'm really enjoying it. Good job. Okay. Ronita, well, welcome. Thanks for showing up today. It was great to have you. And if I understand correctly from George shows, you're fairly new into Bitcoin, I think, and you've just got your wallet set up recently or something like that. Anyway, great job. This is so good. It's so good to be in Bitcoin and to be, you know, learning about it, learning like George was saying, $5 transaction, downloading the Sparrow wallet, getting, getting a transaction sent and watching it through on the mempool. Um, yeah, it's really good, really good. I'm really really thrilled that we have so many new people. You know, my kids are they haven't even done that yet. I haven't got them to the point where they're going to do that, but they're moving around pretty fast. So once in a while, I get them together. I'm like, hey, or one on one, and I'll be able to show them some things. But yeah, got a lot of moving parts over here, and we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, so we're coming up right on an hour here. If we have any more questions, please feel free to shout those out. Um, I'm really glad to see we got some traction with like Aiden's in the chat. He's doing his thing. He's stacking sats. You know, something I was going to mention. This reminds me of something that you know. I interviewed a guy, and Rob Warren is that interview is in this on the channel. It's right before this live stream. And one of the things that he was saying was, the let's see what he was talking about, this article that he wrote. Uh, it's called Three Easy Pieces: How to Teach Your Grandmother Bitcoin. And I loved how he approached this. It was about, I mean, he goes, I mean, I love this because I'm just kind of like this. I'm fearless when it comes to stuff like this. He jumps right into piece one, the mining rig. And he's talking about it. And he goes, uh, he talks about the piece two is the node, and piece three is the hardware wallet or signing device. And that's it. That's in a nutshell. Those are the three pieces. So I liked his approach because it's like, okay, yeah, this is complicated. There's really no way around that. And there's three pieces. Boom, boom, boom. There you are. So anyway, his article is tagged in the. I've got put the link in the show notes for that interview with him. But the last thing I kind of wanted to mention was the recently Jack Mallers did a on his Money Matters podcast. He mentioned something about something that I'm gonna just absolutely chop this up if I don't bring it up. So if you guys will bear with me, I'm gonna do that. Hang on just a second. Let me probably shouldn't do that, but if you're not in a big hurry, you can bear with me, because there's several parts of his podcast that he just did that were really good, but yeah, he talked a little bit about the value of our lives. And that's why I was trying to bring this up. And I didn't get a chance to bring this up before we went on the live today. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get it all here right now because it was over 50 minutes long, and I don't have it queued up. But what I will say is that, one of the reasons why we value Bitcoin is because we value our lives. And the one thing that we know is that we can't get back is time. And we know that everybody, one day, we're all going to die. And that can be a very scary thing for people. It depends on how you look at it, right? But it's one of those things that you think about quite a bit throughout your life. But as you get my age, it's kind of like you're a little closer to that time frame, and you're kind of I'm kind of like, that's interesting. So don't want to get too philosophical and too far down the rabbit hole on that note today, but it was interesting, I found, to discuss or to hear him discuss about in that interview the context of how we value our lives and him relating that to Bitcoin. So anyway, I'll leave it there for now. Just know that that I think it's good to think about. It's good to think about like what you value and why. And that leads us kind of full circle back to the reasons why we want to preserve wealth for our future generations. Oh, and I know one last thing that Rob mentioned, and I'll end with this. Rob, in my interview with Rob, he mentioned the as we talk about the people who are in our lives that we want to like preserve wealth for, and that it's kind of it's just an important thing to, I think. Well, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't know. It's well, yeah, mining, that stuff. I'm not going to be able to unpack that right now. I'll write those notes and I'll save that for the next time. So anyway, it's been a long day. I know you all have places to go and people to take care of. So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for the zaps, everybody that zapped. I have, let's see here. I've got, oh my goodness, you guys have been zapping like crazy today. Look at this. Look at this. We've got, Frank. We've got 1,000 sats. Another one, 1,000 sats. Then we have 2,000 sats from Yogi. Yogi again zapped 5,000 sats. What? Look at this. Okay, and then we've got another 100 sats, and I don't have a note with that one. And another one for 10 sats, and another one for 100 sats, and another one for 100 sats. And I don't have any notes on those last ones. Oh my goodness. There's another 5,000 zap, 5,000 sats zap. Are you kidding me? You guys, this is like zapathon. Like we've never had a zapathon like this on this show. This is amazing. Wow, you guys are really something. So I'm going to look before I go. Look and see what kind of comments we had. Any more comments we have here? You feed goats with sats? Coolest thing ever. It's Letha. Oh. Okay. Clean Your Machine has a question. Aiden has no bank account. Should he keep it that way for now? I'm asking everyone. Very good question. Well, let me ponder that for just a moment. Yeah. Interesting. That's a good question. I would say that it depends on some things. It depends. If he's planning on owning a business and needs to do some things with publicly accounted and publicly managed money, it might be a good idea to have a bank account. But if you're in Canada, that could change. I would not probably be qualified to answer that question if he's in Canada. But I can tell you what I would tell my son if he asked me about that. I would say that given where we are right now, it's probably a good idea for him to have a bank account so that he can, because it's sort of in this period of like, definitely in a period of like, we have dollars in the US, we have dollars and we have sats. And while the dollars are going to go down in value, continue to be debased, and I think especially since we're looking at some of the things that they're planning to do, I think the money printer is going to continue to go brrr. But it would be if he doesn't have an account, if someone sends him a check and he's going to be receiving money that way, it's going to be difficult to deposit a check like that if you don't have an account, um, or unless somebody in your family can deposit the check for him. That complicates things, though. And so I don't know. It's really it's a good question because it is complicated because you don't want to be in that fiat banking system, right? So anyway, that's kind of my long-winded answer. I hope that that's acceptable. And Letha says, she's wondering how long it's gonna how much banking's gonna change in the next few years. Right. Um, I was kind of thinking about this. I would say that, banking's definitely gonna change, but banks need to learn how to survive if they're gonna stay in business, right? How are they gonna survive if they're gonna have to really change their business model. I would imagine there's gonna be a ton of mergers and acquisitions. Um, but what do I know? I'm not a banking guy, so I'm just a guy sitting here pretending like I know what I'm doing on YouTube. Um, and yeah, and so Clean Room Machine goes on. He says, I will be employing him and it will be SATs 90% and 10% cash. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, if that's the case, you're paying him SATs 90% and 10% cash. Can you pay him cash and he doesn't have to have a bank account if he's got cash in his pocket? You see? So that's why I'm thinking maybe he doesn't need it. Maybe he doesn't need a bank account if you're giving him cash. If you have to give him a paycheck, then that would be different, right? But yeah, since you guys are related, you could pay him cash and no problem. Yeah, I think I'm with Letha on this. And so for sure, for sure. Oh, 5,000 sats from Clean Your Machine. Thank you, sir. Hats off to you very much. Uh, and everything divided by 21 million. Yeah, can't wait for Strategy B to start their Bitcoin bank. 100%, right? I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they uncover with this once they get through some of this. Well, I think it's going to be talked about a lot more, but the Bitcoin bonds, I think those are going to be discussed a lot more, and I think we're going to be looking at quite a few changes. So it's like who can say, right? I think people who are really kind of close to all that, they can say a lot better than we could, but I don't know. I don't probably follow it as closely as I should, but I can't really do that as close as I would like to. So anyway, thank you all. Hey, listen, it's been great being with you. We're in here for Bitcoiners, for new Bitcoiners, for baby boomers who are new to Bitcoin, who are eyes glazed over, scared to death. You came to the right place. We need you to go ahead and you can put your comments in the comments section below. Subscribe and like to our channel if that fits that fits and works for you. We love talking to baby boomers, people who don't know much about Bitcoin, and we talk about just about everything here. So thank you very much. Been great being with you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.